What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Campfire Convos. On today's episode, we got Stan with us all the way from Texas. But before we get into that, I do want to cover what we got working with today, and that is sitting around the solo stove, sitting on a couple click chairs, and drinking some local coffee. So, if that sounds like something that you would like to sponsor, hit me up. We're looking for them. Shameless plug. Shameless. Does it count as a plug?
I don't think so.
I don't think it, because it's not like our stuff. We're just promoting to possibly promote their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not a plug. So
advertisement.
Yeah. Advertisement opportunities. I'm gonna drink some of our cold coffee since it took much longer to build this fire than it probably should have.
That's the benefit of coffee. It's always good.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. I think I might prefer cold coffee over hot coffee.
In Texas, it's always hot.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so you are coming all the way from Texas.
Yeah.
So how's the travels here? That was a good bit of travel now.
Yeah. So I ended up flying this time. It was a little stressful. I ended up having to get out of work a little late. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got to the airport and the TSA line was all like the pre-TSA and the priority, they were all put into one line. So we had to go through in one scanner. Mm-hmm. So by the time I got through everything, I had 7 minutes to get on my flight.
Oh, so you had plenty of time. Wasn't cutting it close
definitely.
At all. Yeah,
I had more than enough time. But I think that's the closest I've ever made it to a flight.
Nice, so. Nice. Do you think you're gonna try to keep one up in that and get like a little closer every time?
Yeah. There's actually a trend going on right now on TikTok. People try to make it as short as possible, and then end up missing the flights. So
well, I mean, that sounds like what would happen if you try to cut it too close. Especially because I feel like sometimes they close the doors earlier than they're supposed to close them. So like, they ain't open them once they close them. I know that.
Definitely not.
Pretty picky about that. So this is an interesting topic, but it kind of popped into my head. So we'll see how it goes. But with everything going on with planes right now, were you nervous at all to fly?
Not exactly. Like, it makes you think about crashing more, right? Mm-hmm. With all the stuff. But I feel like with the amount of flights going out on a daily basis, we're not really like in that big of a situation. Because I believe I looked up statistics, and I believe your chance of dying in a car crash is something like 1 in 93, and your chance of dying in a plane crash is something like 1 in a million.
Damn.
Don't quote me on those specific statistics, but the difference is so drastic.
Yeah.
So it was like you pay attention more because of everything going on right now. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in my opinion, if something were to happen, just get to be in heaven sooner. So
yeah.
You know,
it's a win-win, basically.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying. You're either there safely or eternal paradise, which both sound pretty solid.
Yeah.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I think my main concern with flying opposed to driving is when driving, I'm in control. So like, I trust myself a lot.
Yeah.
Flying, it's like, I just hope the pilot's not fucking off up there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
For me, I prefer driving, and it's not because the actual aspect of control more. Mm-hmm. I feel like I enjoy the drive more than I enjoy like flying. Yeah. I feel like you get to see a scenic route, and it's just, I don't know, more enjoyable. You get to sit there with your own thoughts, like for however long. You
don't have to worry about some baby crying 3 rows behind you. Or
that too.
That's always fun. Yeah, I think my favorite thing actually about flying is if you get like a sunrise or a sunset flight, and you can see that sunset like coming out through the clouds or whatever. It's just, it's hard to put into words how gorgeous it is when it's like a real perfect sunset and you're just looking straight at it. But I feel like most of the times I've flown, I'm not so lucky to get a beautiful one, which is probably good, because if you got it every time, it wouldn't be as special. Yeah. But you don't get, like you're saying, you don't get the views. Like, you can, because you're high up there, but most of the time you're above the clouds, or for me at least, I'm above the clouds, I can't see anything, so,
No, that makes sense. One of the views I actually got not too long ago, I was flying from North Carolina visiting family back to Texas. It was a thunderstorm in the distance, so you could actually see the lightning, and it wasn't like just like bright lights. It was like you could actually see all the lines because you're above the sky and you can see everything. I think that was one of my favorite views. But sunsets and sunrise definitely up there on the list.
That sounds really cool, but that sounds Like as long as you're far enough away. it'd be
Yeah,
fine.
it was like in the distance, so it's like not like we couldn't even hear the thunder or anything. It's just you could see it because you're so high up that
Yeah.
you can see so far out.
Huh.
But yeah,
That's really cool. That is really cool. Yeah, I've never experienced that. I feel like I'd probably prefer not to on that particular one. Like I'll listen to it or hear about it, but
yeah,
I'm not a nervous flyer. But like I said, I
yeah.
like to have control, and that doesn't sound like I have very much
yeah,
control.
yeah, definitely not.
But that's cool though. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any other like notable stories about flying or just traveling in general?
Not flying. Flying just basically is. I feel like, other than the views, sometimes it's all kind of the same.
Yeah.
No matter what. But traveling, yeah. I actually took my van. I have a 1985 Volkswagen Vanagon that I'm rebuilding.
That's so cool.
I drove it over the holidays to North Carolina, which was 1,100 miles, and then back. And I think that would be one of my favorite road trips.
Wow. That's 1,100 each way?
Yeah, each way.
Damn.
And this is on a van that hasn't been running since 2009. And before the trip, the longest trip I took on it was 70 miles total. And I was like, hey, let's give it a shot, see if it makes it. It made it there, barely, but we got through it. It was a blast.
70 to 2,000.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was honestly an amazing time. The way there was like 55 miles an hour the whole way. So it took me like almost 24 hours of driving.
Yeah. Wow.
The way back, I kind of sped up a little and did 70. But just, I don't know, something about driving an old car. Completely different feeling.
And it's like you time travel back, and it's just
Yeah.
like there. Like
Yeah.
you're in that time period with that vehicle.
Yeah, and I feel like whenever I'm driving an old car, going slow doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
Like if I'm driving my truck, like I'm usually going with the flow of traffic, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But on the van, everybody's passing you, but you just don't care. It's just like a chill ride. So, yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, definitely. I could see that. I think I'm much more likely, if I got like other people in the car and I'm road tripping, I'm much more likely to enjoy the drive, just kind of chill and like not have to worry about getting there. But if I'm by myself, like regardless of if it's a new vehicle or old vehicle, I'm a little more pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
With the
makes
flow
sense.
of traffic, of course.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Yeah.
You never break the law. You know?
No, never.
Yeah.
Very off topic. Well, not off topic, but like off the wall. I just saw a thing today that this dude was claiming that at 189 miles an hour, you can't read a 40 mile an hour sign. So, technically, I have to listen to it.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't know that I would recommend testing that one out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you pay a lawyer enough, maybe you'll get out of it. But
I don't know. At that speed, I find it very, very unlikely.
Yeah. What, speaking of speed, just because I'm thinking about it now, hypothetically speaking, what would you say the fastest you might have traveled in a not real scenario might be?
Not real scenario. Are we talking like cars or motorcycles or planes?
You're not planes. It's just like you physically driving something.
Hypothetically speaking, I don't know. Maybe in the range of like, I'll give you a broad range.
Yeah, okay.
So somewhere between 100 and 160.
Nice.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
What would you have hypothetically been driving at that point?
So there were two things. One was a motorcycle, which has a top speed of, claimed by the manufacturer of 159. I did not test it, and I do not recommend it. And the other vehicle may have been a Mustang GT.
Ooh, that'd be a fun
Yeah.
one. Be a fun one to drive. Yeah, I actually believe I reached out to you and said that breaking 100 on two wheels was one of my life goals, and you said no, I should not do that.
Yeah, I strongly do not recommend.
So you're telling me, you say don't do it, but you've hypothetically already done it.
Yeah, and it's I know it's a hypocritical type of thing. I was younger back then, right? But realistically, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, motorcycles in general are a bad idea, and I know that's hypocritical because I still ride. But the amount of people who wreck and die is astronomical.
Yeah.
Especially I know you're in a smaller city. In Dallas, I mean, there's accidents on motorcycles all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not just if you're being unsafe, it's the people around you. They don't notice you. And you can't always blame them, especially if you're doing 100 on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
You can't blame somebody for switching lanes into your lane
Yeah.
because they don't see you. Realistically, you're a spec compared to other cars.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend it. I know it's wrong for me. Like, I mean, it's not wrong for me to say not to do it. It's one of those things you have to take. Like, I don't ever recommend it, but I know, like, for people who do ride, they never want to go back to not riding.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way, but that's also why I say don't start.
Yeah.
My dad told me the same thing, but I didn't listen. So, yeah.
Now you're passing on the wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I always wanted a motorcycle. I like riding quads. I just learned how to ride dirt bike.
Oh, yeah.
My parents were very much against dirt bikes and motorcycles forever. They've always called motorcycles donor cycles because so many people die on them. And I have an uncle who's in law enforcement and has some not great stories about just the things that can happen. And it does seem like you're saying, it seems like a lot of that is other people.
Yeah.
And whether they're to blame or not, it's you only have so much control over what's going on, and something super little can happen, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's a scary thing. So basically, what I'm getting at is drive safe.
Oh yeah, no, I do. I kind of grew out of that phase of my life.
Get this back in here without burning my fingers. Oh, that's toasty. All right. Yeah, you're just gonna fucking. He's more of a man than I am. I don't know what to say. That had to hurt. I like barely touched it, and it was it was hot. I just fucked myself, I guess. I don't even remember what I was saying. I'm too in awe that you just grabbed that flaming piece of wood.
We're talking about motorcycles.
Motorcycles, yes. Be safe. That's where I was going.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely grew out of that like phase of life. Now I prefer actually leaving, because I live in a big city, so I prefer driving out like 30 minutes and riding back roads where you don't really go over like 50, 55 miles an hour, and just relaxing, having like a calm, relaxing ride. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I've always, so when I did want one, and I'd like to learn how to ride one just to, I like doing new things anyways, but I always pictured it in like a city where I could get through wherever I'm going a little quicker. I don't have to go like fast, but like I don't have to sit in traffic kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I would like to think that if I ever move into a city for a period of time, then I would get one just to, do that. On the other hand, my self-control with something like that isn't the greatest, so I'd have to be very careful with what I do. But that's cool though. That's cool. You're more of like a chopper style bike, not like a sports bike, right?
Well, yeah. So most of my experience has been on cruisers and bobbers that I built. I just finished building a sport bike, so I'm back on those. I've had one previously, and that was years ago, and I sold it pretty quick because I knew if I don't, my self-control back then was a little worse.
Yeah.
So now I built another one, and so I just started riding it this week.
Oh,
actually.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But I do prefer the cruisers and stuff like that. I feel like for long rides and stuff, it's a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. From the friends that I've had the sports bike, it's like 15 minutes and you start getting sore. You're kind of hunched over and all that stuff. But the choppers seem like the ones where you just kind of go on like road trips on.
Oh yeah.
Thing, Speaking of, have you taken one on like a long trip?
The longest so far that I've went was probably about like 4 hours, and that was on a Triumph Rocket 3, which is a big cruiser, and that thing, I mean, it was comfortable. I drove it, so we did about a 2.5-hour stint, stopped in a little town, hung out, and then drove back.
Nice.
And it was great. I do plan on taking the sport bike on a 10-hour trip to Big Bend National Park.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
That'll be awesome.
I'm going to definitely test it out before. Yeah. Do a couple of hours if it's going to be too difficult. Because it is considered a upright bike. Okay. So it's not like you're not hunched over as much because the handlebars are a little higher. And so it should be more comfortable. So I'm going to do a few hours, see if it's good enough to go. If not, then I'll just take a regular car.
Nice. What are you going to Big Bend for?
So there's actually a group, I saw it on Instagram. And this guy, he sets up like photographers, videographers, anybody who does like creative stuff, like poetry, writing, whatever. They get together in national parks and they hang out for a weekend and collaborate or just like inspire each other and just do fun stuff like that. So I decided to try it out, meet some strangers, why
Nice. I feel like that's the best way to do it. Just meet some strangers.
That's how I met you guys.
Specifically in the woods. Yeah. That's literally all of my closest friends now have been strangers that I've met in the woods. Like, not an exaggeration at all.
Yeah.
It's wild how that happens because, I mean, growing up, it's like, hey, don't talk to strangers, and if you're going somewhere, be safe. And then I'm like, I'm going to do the most unsafe thing I possibly can. I'm going to go spend a night in the middle of the woods with a bunch of people I don't know. Yeah. And see what happens. And it's turned out great. I'm not saying, just for the record, caveat there, I'm not saying that's for everyone. Like, if you're going to do it, be smart. But it's worked out pretty good.
No, it has. And as you said, it's not for everybody. Yeah. But definitely you can meet some great people. And I think that's one of the like type of ways to meet people when you're older. Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't mean that we're older or anything, but like after you're 25, making friends is a lot harder.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like going on trips and stuff like that is a great way to meet like people that you'll end up being friends with.
Yeah.
Because if you like nature, they like nature, that's already one big thing you have in common.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to apply that, and then I've also been trying to kind of apply that in like my like dating life. Like, I feel like there's certain things that I want to have in common with the significant other. Yeah. And from what I've seen, not personally experienced yet, but it seems like if you find like activities like, okay, if I go to a bar and try to meet someone, the chances of me having something in common with them isn't necessarily very good. But if I go out and I go on a hike and meet someone on a hike, it's a little different because now we're both hiking. We're doing one of the things that we have in common. Especially because like I'm not really into bars and that scene anymore. Don't get me wrong, it's fun. There's a time for it, but I'm not an every weekend go to the club or go to the bar kind of guy. So
no, that makes sense. Yeah.
But what do you have any other like hobbies besides motorcycles and fixing stuff? And
not really, honestly. I mean, I just do gym, work in the garage and home.
Nice.
I don't really go out very much. Yeah. So yeah. The only way I meet people is traveling with you guys and then church and stuff.
Yeah. How's church been?
Pretty good. So I haven't changed memberships from churches yet because I'm still a member in North Carolina. Yeah. But started going to like smaller groups to meet people more of my age. That's been pretty good. So I'm going to continue doing that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
I'm not great at meeting people. It's kind of one of those things where you have to like force yourself, especially when you're like used to not going out. But yeah, definitely something I'm enjoying the new challenge. Yeah. So yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't gone to church consistently for quite a long time. But growing up, I mean, we always went to like, Bible study and Bible groups and all the fun stuff. And I had a lot of friends from that for a long time. Like that was the core bit of my friends. I mean, obviously you grow up, you move around. To some people, they stick with the either church or the Bible studies, groups, all that stuff. But for me, I kind of fell out of it. I have kind of a unique, I don't know if it's necessarily fully unique, but I don't meet many people with my mindset on like religion and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's a little different, I guess.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. But would you say there's anything specific that going to church has done for you?
Honestly, quite a lot, I think. Sorry. I grew up in a religious family, in a religious community most of my life. It wasn't until I was probably like 26, 27, is when I ended up switching churches and started going to an American church and meeting people. But then I moved and I continued going to church, but I wasn't really involved, like small groups and stuff like that. And I've noticed a difference in the fact that like I kept telling myself I wouldn't not lose my faith. I don't think that's the correct way to say it, but like you don't grow spiritually, I feel like, when you're by yourself,
Okay.
like all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's harder to grow spiritually in your faith if you're not surrounding yourself in a community that's trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what churches helps a lot with. As well as when you're going through stuff, having people there that you can like rely on who will support you, even if it's just a prayer, like you don't ever have to tell them details. You can just be like, hey, I'm going through a hard time, or like just having issues in life.
Yeah.
If you guys could pray for me, I feel like that in itself is very useful.
Yeah.
I'm a very strong believer in the fact that prayer plays a big role in life, and it's getting kind of cold.
Yeah, it's a little chilly out.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like shivering now. I think it plays a really big role in our lives, and it can definitely help a lot. And I think surrounding yourself with people of the same beliefs definitely help. I know it definitely helped me when I was going through some struggles in life. Yeah, and then right now meeting people, it's been helping me actually read more and kind of be in my faith more than like I was previously. Yeah. Not that I wasn't a believer or anything. I never stopped believing. It's just I found myself not reading as much, and whenever I did read, it wasn't like going in depth as much as I wish I did.
Yeah. Do you have, so you had mentioned like going through struggles.
Yeah.
Was there any specific struggles that you went through that reading something specific helped you through, or was it just kind of like dealing with like a bunch of different stuff and it just kind of gradually pulled you out of it?
I would say it was like, I'm not going to go into details of what issues I had.
Yeah.
But it was like a few different things like piled on together. And it's not specifically like reading specific sections that were like, oh, they helped. It's just, I think a lot of the stories, because sometimes whenever we start having issues, right, and we start looking at different people from the Bible and seeing like what issues they went through and how they like just relied on God and then ended up coming out on the other side, like a lot better and a lot stronger. I feel like that in itself kind of gives you like a motivation that like, hey, if I continue relying on God, it'll help. Even something as simple as, oh man, I forget the guy's name. But he was, I've actually was thinking about the story recently. He was having a hard time, and he said something to God along the lines of, like, kill me or something, or I don't want to die. Like, he was in that point of mindset where he wanted to die. And God, in the middle of the desert, made that tree grow and gave him food and said, take a nap. And all he had to do was take a nap and eat, and things were better. And sometimes it makes you think that, like, whenever you're going through hard stuff, maybe sometimes you just need to take a little break and not think about the whole problem, but just take it step by step, day at a time, and you get through it. And I feel like there's a lot of stories like that from the Bible, as well as examples of, I feel like some people, and this happened, like, was in my situation too, you think like, oh, like, why, like, how can I'm not qualified to, like, play a role or, like, tell people about God, like, I've messed up in life, I made mistakes. But then you look at stories from the Bible and you're like, a lot of those people were killing Christians before they, like, started serving God, right? And it kind of helps you understand that you don't have to be qualified, you can just start sharing. And I've been seeing that a lot recently in social media. People who have come to Christ and are now just share God's love with people. And I mean, who are we to say who's qualified, who's not?
It's definitely not a us decision, for sure. That's not. Now I know that there's a lot of talk out there about religion and the phases of life people seem to go through and then come back to religion, right? So like, you might grow up religious, leave it, and try to come back to it. But a lot of people say that you come back to it after fucking up, right? Like, you lived a certain lifestyle for a period of time and you regret it, so you go back to God to kind of, redeem yourself, essentially. Do you have any feelings like, is there anything wrong with that, would you say?
I don't know. I don't want to say it's anything wrong with that, because it happens to everybody, right? Like, even if you don't leave your faith, you don't really leave your religion. People have like their seasons, right? It's when you're closer to God, when you're further from God. And I don't want to say it's not right? So like being away from God is not a good thing. I think it's a normal human thing that happens, and we should always strive to keep growing our faith and getting closer to God. So I don't know how to answer that correctly. I don't think it's not that it's not wrong. I think in a sense it is wrong, you know, like to step away, but I think it happens to everybody. Yeah. But coming back to Christ obviously is a great thing, right? Yeah. Like a lot of people have that situation where they're close to God. Life happens, they step away, and then they come back. And I think that's great, you know, that they find their way back.
Yeah, like I said before, I have a little bit of a unique view on God and church and all this stuff, right? So sometimes it's hard to take other people's perspective on stuff. I don't want to say seriously, because that means that, like it's hard to understand how some people think the way they think, I guess is the easiest way to put it. And that's one of the things I kind of struggle with, is if the only reason you came back is because you know you fucked up, then I don't know. I have something. There's something inherently wrong with that, to me. Like, that means you know you were doing something wrong. And in that period of time, you probably knew it while you were doing it. And now you're asking for forgiveness, which is the whole, like, that's literally like the entire thing of Christianity, right? Is ask for forgiveness and get into heaven, essentially.
Yeah.
What? A small technical difficulty, but we're back. And I lost my train of thought. But we were saying...
You were trying to explain how you believe that people stepping away from faith and religion, screwing up, and then coming back is wrong because they knew during that period of time what they were doing is wrong, and they only came back because they messed up.
Yeah.
I don't really see it that way. I feel like there's a lot of things in life that can happen that can cause us to get just mad at the world and everything, and it tends to make people kind of self-destructive. You kind of start acting out and doing whatever, right? Yeah. And even if you know that it's wrong doing it, I feel like it's not that they realize that they messed up. That's part of it, but I think it's that they realize that, without God, their life isn't really, at least not, like, kind of pointless. And I don't want to say the phrase pointless, right? Because life is never pointless. But that they can't keep going without God. And that's why they come back. It's the same thing as, like, let's say you have a fight with your parents. And you leave your parents' house. And you run away. And then whatever happens, it doesn't even have to be that, like, life gets worse. But you just realize that your relationship with your parents is something that actually is important. And you come back. If your parents were like, no, we don't want you back, I'd be kind of like, that takes away the idea of parental love, right, for your kids. But God's love for us is even bigger. So I believe that even if we mess up, even if we knew that we were messing up during that period of time, whatever the reason is why we stepped away, it's great that they come back. And God gives us that opportunity to come back. Do I believe that it's right for us to be like, oh, God will just forgive me? I'm going to go live my life the way I want to? No. And I think the Bible clearly talks about that, stating that we're not supposed to sin with the idea of just like, oh, I'll just come back and I'll be saved, That's not the way we're supposed to live our life. I think it's normal. Not normal. I think it's understandable that people sometimes step away. Or just kind of like be in a season in life where they're a little further from God, and then come back after they realize that, hey, like, I can't do this on my own. And I think there's a beauty in that when people realize that without God, like, we can't do it. So
yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting perspective. Would you say that, was there ever a time that you felt, let me rephrase that, Was there a time that stands out where you felt furthest from God?
I think there were like two, I guess, times. One time was when I was in my late teens, early 20s. I was going through a little bit of a rebellious phase. Just doing stupid stuff.
As we do at that age.
I would say that was one of the times. And that wasn't just because, like, I still went to church and stuff like that, but I was just going through my own, like, internal issues that I was dealing with. And I feel like at that time I was a little, like, further, even though, like, I would read sometimes and stuff like that. And then one time it was, again, when I moved away from North Carolina. And that wasn't, like, an intentional me going through stuff. It was more of, like, I was trying to get back to a strong relationship with God. But because I wasn't surrounding myself with the community, makes it more difficult. Like, even when you, like, read a section of the Bible and you don't fully understand it, you don't have anybody to discuss it with and stuff like that. And so you end up just being in a stagnant place in life where you're just like, you read, but you don't fully grasp the idea. And then you go on Sunday to church, and all you're kind of getting is, like, fed once a week. And so you're not growing spiritually. So I think those would be the two times when I was, I guess, furthest. But when I was younger, I guess it was more of the self-destructive type of mindset. And I think a lot of people go through that rebellious, trying to find their, like, understanding of life.
Yeah. All right. Now, on the flip side of that, what's one thing that stands out where you felt the closest to God?
Okay. Like, what do you mean by, like, stands out?
Like, just something that, like, when I say closest to God, what's the one moment that comes to your mind?
I would say when I started having issues back in, like, 2018, I was going through some life troubles. At the beginning of that, I was kind of like, God, you take this, like, and so I was a lot closer to God then, because I was like, I had nowhere else to go. I had nowhere else to turn, you know? So I was like, I have no choice but to, like, I can't do it on my own. So I turned to God, and it definitely gave me the upliftment that I needed to be able to get through it. Was the outcome of that whole situation what I had hoped for? No. And I think after that, I kind of, like, maybe got a little bit unhappy with, I don't want to say God, but just, like, the community I was in. Just because of the way that some things played out. And so I feel like that's also played into the role of why it was, like, I became kind of stagnant in my faith. But definitely at the beginning of that, and I feel like it's always like that. Whenever you're going through trouble and you're like, hey, God, help me, that's when you get the closest, right? Because, like, you're like, oh, I can't do this on my own. I need God's help. But you definitely, I personally feel a lot of more upliftment when I'm closer to God. Things don't seem as bad, even when things start, like, because you're always going to have trouble in life. And I feel like if you're always relying on God and you're closer to God, no matter what those troubles are, they don't seem as bad. And you kind of get this feeling of, like, oh, well, this too shall pass. And on the other side, whatever may happen, it might not be the plans I had for my life, but it'll all work out in the end. So.
Yeah, that's actually very similar. So the last episode that I recorded was my just turned 30 episode. Talked to myself basically for a little while. But one of the things that I reference in there is that everything happens for a reason. And I think that links back to almost any religion, right? Like, and the words are going to be different, and basically it comes down to have faith, right? So no matter what happens, I have faith that I'm going to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, exactly when I'm supposed to be there. And it's happened time and time and time again for me, where, you know, say it's a breakup, and in the moment you're like, what the fuck, this sucks. And then all of a sudden you meet someone else and you're like, oh, this person that I thought I was going to be with now has taught me a lesson. Or a career path, say you get fired from a job and then this new opportunity presents itself. That kind of stuff as terrible as it can be in the moment, always seems to be the biggest lesson when you finally click. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it just links back to having faith, having that connection, and knowing that at the end of the day, you're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool to think about. And I really don't know how people get through some shit without having something similar to think about.
Yeah.
Whether it's, feeling connected to God or feeling connected to the universe or whatever it is for I mean, literal billions of people on the planet, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
But it seems so consistently to come back to the same core principles. And that's really cool to see.
Yeah. I agree.
But it's a little chilly out here.
Oh, it's much chillier than I expected.
Yeah. I mean, it was 50 like all day. And
I
then
know.
as soon as we got out here, well, I mean, it did get dark. So
Yeah.
kind of shame on us. But I do think with that being said, it might be a good time to roll this down. What are you thinking? You got anything else to add?
No. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you being here all the way from Texas.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully.
You guys need to come down.
Oh, dude, it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of figuring out when.
It's the best country in the world.
We're just gonna split you into like 7 more states so we can make it even. No, yeah, I really want to make a trip down, visit, and see all the cool stuff. I'm kind of bummed that I ruined the plans to come down.
Oh, it's all
last
good,
month.
man.
But I'm glad you're here now, and we get to hang out this weekend. And I'm definitely sure we will have plenty more interesting conversations on our travels.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool. But yeah, man, thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. We are going to do a toast today with a little bit of coffee. I didn't think this one out, so we're just going to wing it. But you got anything? Anything you're thinking?
Not really.
May we both end up exactly where we're supposed to be, exactly when we're supposed to be there.
Yep.
Cheers.
God bless.
Salute. God bless.
Cold, still good.
That's still fucking good. Thanks, brother.
Yep.
Appreciate you being here.
Yep. Thank you.
Wrap that shit up. It's fucking cold.
I was like sitting here. I'm
like,
like, I hope it doesn't look like I'm nervous. It made me so much more nervous because I'm like sitting here like shaking.